about the same way if you just spin. One of the contractors yesterday made probably the best point. One of the guys had installed 40 or 50 of these, said to the rest of the guys in the room, he goes, if you will, information is so powerful, if you'll spend 5 minutes after you're done with your install, if you have the opportunity when the homeowner's there, just walking them through and telling them the features, telling them how to use it, tell them a couple of things, what not to do's, you know, with the battery pack location and some other things. He goes, you'll probably never hear back again from them. Or if you do hear back from them, it'll just be to tell you, love my faucet, everything's cool about it. So, there you go.
Okay. And as I mentioned, Spencer and I are not sales and marketing. We're the technical support, likes
Likes the bloviator.
I was fiddling around with this battery pack. I wanted to try to simulate a low battery so you guys could see the red light flashing. It will go to a red light blink once every 5 seconds when the batteries are going down, just like on any of these models, okay? I just can't get it to go to that mode. I can't simulate the low battery I want to. I just had one other comment on this Touch Lab that's a critical part of the install. And I know you guys don't like to hear plastic. I know that's, you know, the plumbing industry, but for this model, it is required to put in the all plastic pop-up, okay? And that's for interference issues with using a electronic touch faucet, okay? And then you also have a plastic lift rod that goes with it, okay? Those pieces of the product need to be installed with it to make sure it operates properly, okay?
Did you talk about PEX supplies?
We did not.
You know, that's the other, when you hear him make that comment right there about the need for, you know, the plastic pop-up, and again, this is all about, again, I opened up with electronics and water and some things you have to do a little bit differently. The PEX tubing is there for a reason. You know, it does not help in the interference in conducting electricity and all the interference that you get underneath there. I know you guys as custom plumbing contractors, you know, you feel it's got to be a quality job to the extent that you have to use stainless steel braided connectors, and that's why we don't want those under there. That's just one more piece of metal under the sink that can contribute. And when Spencer does his thing, all the Star Wars stuff that he'll show you in a little bit about how all the technology behind this, you'll see how different things, different environments, the type of sink and what's going on underneath the sink and metal here and the power there, how it affects this thing, and he'll show you that graphically, and it becomes much easier to understand. And the other point about our 34-inch supplies, it does eliminate the need entirely for you to buy a separate supply. It's designed to drop right on top of the stop, you know, 1/4-inch stop.
3/8.
Excuse me, 3/8 and stop. And you know, I know when you guys go into a house, especially on a remodel retrofit, you're going to find probably 25, 30-year-old stops on there. You could see everything from corrugated to 1/2 inch. I mean, the combinations in California are endless because we sell brass scrap too. We've been selling it for a lot of years. We know everything that you could possibly run into. There are adapters to help you get from whatever size is under there to this, but I think most of the time, maybe show of hands, aren't you replacing the stops anyway when you do a job like that? You're not leaving a 30-year-old stop, for the most part. So I'm assuming when you do that, then you're going to 1/4 turn or you're going to a 3/8 inch stop. Anyway.
No 1/4 turn. No 1/4 turn.
So Mike was the California market.
Turn it off a month later.
For years.
It was so many different things.
Okay.
Tim knows it even better than I do because he's been here this whole time. But with brass scrap, we've seen every iteration of stop. Some one piece where you have the stop and supply all together, and then you've got the guys are there trying to figure out how to tie this into that. And it just needs to come. The stop needs to come off, and you know, for a kind of quality job.
Okay. Well, I'll reiterate what Mike said. I mean, this stuff is very durable. As I said earlier, I was part of developing and testing all this product as well as Spencer, and we did everything we could to destroy this stuff. And I know it's had a bad rap maybe for years in the field for other uses and things like that, but I can tell you this stuff is bulletproof. Very, very durable. With this fitting on the end, I mean, we pulled it apart, did everything we could, but it went through a lot of testing, and we're very happy with how it turned out and what the product's doing. It's a very durable installation.
And can I jump on that? How many of you guys have installed a PEX line like this that Delta offers, whether it's touch or not?
Yes.
So what was your thoughts? Did you say, gosh, this is a pain in the ass, this thing's so long, what do you do with it all?
Sometimes I just get those adapters if the customer doesn't wanna pay to change any angle stops or condos or something. You guys should hold.
Right, we have the adapters, right.
You just get those 3/8x1/2 adapters and put a flex on it.
Can I make a
Not on
suggestion?
this faucet, on the other ones.
For all of your liability, don't clip off the
No, I don't.
tip and shorten it,
No,
because as soon
I
as you
don't.
do that, now you've opened everything up to
Yeah.
you, whether you did things right.
No, I
But
leave
if
it
that
there.
thing has a problem on that fitting, the factory fitting he shows there, it's our problem, it's the factory problem, and guess what? We've sold bazillions of them, we haven't had one failure. Of course, when the guy does it right, I mean, if you wanna crank that thing down while you're watching the movie and you ruin that thing, that's different, but you're not gonna do that to professional plumber.
And this piece is, there's a process called cross-linking. This little fitting here, which seems to be this connection onto this pipe. This isn't an insert fitting, it's not a glued-on fitting. This is cross-linked into the same materials, cross-linked together, become one piece. If you were to hang that, hook that up and start hanging weight here, this tubing, which durable as it is, will stretch and snap well before this fitting will ever pop off of here. That's the kind of testing he's talking about. And I'm talking about thousands of pounds of pull. So,
It's straight, it probably stretch from here to the wall before it pulls apart. It's just, that's
Can
the
you make them
material.
shorter?
The other interesting thing is,
well, no, you asked a question.
I've been underneath a couple.
Yeah, I know,
sinks,
you
we got
asked a
some
question,
crap going
he wants to know, can we make them shorter? And, you know, the reason they're as long as they are is to try to keep the short ones and the long ones all together. But to Spencer's point there earlier, you know, back against that wall, you can get these things as short as you want, just by, don't back off of turning them and
on. If you've
and
been in
do
some of
anything
the
about
houses
it.
we've been in, hell, they want a chiller under their counter.
Right.
and
Oh,
extra
yeah.
hot,
Oh,
and
yeah.
RO
Oh, yeah.
system.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
got-
started out, you came in a little bit late, but we pulled this thing open and there's all kinds of stuff on it.
Right.
That's exactly what you encounter all the time, and we get that's a major concern for you, so.
What about?
But don't be, but like I said, don't be afraid to muscle those things and turn them and get them into the stop any direction you want.
Movement on those, when you turn the water on and off, and they sit under there and bang, bang.
you can nylon time to whatever you want, you can time together. If you do loop it a couple times, you know, tie those loops together. Don't be afraid to loop them. You know, Scott bent that pretty good and put a kink in it. If you do that, you can actually fix that. You get a
Hair dryer.
get a hairdryer out and zap it on there. It will actually come back to it's a memory type material. It memorizes its original form. If you heat it up, it's automatically going to go back to where it was molded
I
at.
do that constantly.
Yeah.
But to your point, it will do that, but that's one of the beautiful parts about PEX is it eliminates water hammer. So yeah, if you could cable tie it down or whatever you want to do, that ends that.
Okay, we're gonna get a little more technical here with Spencer, and he's got to spend a little bit of time here, you know, taking this to the next step, okay? So,
What we're going to do first is we actually want to be able to show you some stuff about what's going on inside the electronics. I want to show you some of the operation stuff, but I think it's going to be best done and explained if we actually have one that's flowing water and we can put it in the environment. And we're going to manipulate some stuff. We're going to move battery packs around, do some stuff with wires. I want to show you guys exactly why we don't recommend doing that and why we think it's necessary to include all of these installation elements. I don't know if you guys, I've seen at least 3 say you've installed these. I don't know if you've used the instructions, but if you look at the instructions in there, it tells you a lot of things about what we're calling isolators and insulators. There's a lot of different pieces. So I'm going to show you some of those pieces before you do that install, so I'm not going to get too terribly in depth with operation. I'm just going to kind of show you some of the elements. One of the things that we talked about was these are not IR faucets. I don't have to wave at a window. I just got to touch it. And I did flip one of these batteries around and was able to get the red light. So that is what you're going to get whenever you have a low battery. And what's different about this technology is it's capacitance. It's not IR. IR shoots a light out and it reflects a certain amount of light back, and that's how it knows something's in front of it. The lighter the material it's shooting the light at, the more light it gets back. The darker, the more light it absorbs, so you get a lot less return. That's why if you have a dark shirt or dark skinned guy or girl, they might have to wait a little bit more to get that thing put on. It's because the dark material is absorbing a lot of light.
Participate this much, did you?
So with capacitance, basically what capacitance is doing, and I'm not going to try to make you guys experts in electronics. I'm just going to kind of give you the generic. Here's what it's doing. Just it works. Capacitance is basically it's looking for a path to ground, earth ground. So we're all standing on earth ground. Earth ground is a invisible plane, and that's why whenever you hook up electricity outside your house, you're pounding that copper stake in the ground. It's coupling with earth ground, and then you hardwire everything to that.
I
That's
check it
it.
this way, I just check the electricity. Isn't that how you guys do it?
So we're all there is a
Explains a lot, doesn't it?
plane. There is an earth ground. That's why whenever there's a lightning storm and a golfer has his club up in the air, he can get struck by electricity because he's coupled with earth ground. That's why whenever you walk across something and discharge to a metal object, it's jumping and you're creating that static electricity just because you're coupled with earth ground. So this is basically a big antenna, and I've created everything that's conductive on this. So Scott talked about our electronics pack. So the elements to this is you have your battery pack, and it serves two purposes. Number one, it provides power to your faucet. And the other thing it does, and you guys might notice this, it's also touch sensitive. That's something that people feel is a flaw, and it's something that it wasn't done right. There must be something wrong. But the reason it does that is because this is also capacitively coupled to the electronics. And we're not only providing power, but we're also providing a ground reference. So in order for this faucet to work, we've created a reference point that this is now given to the electronics saying this is ground. And I have a sense line, and when I touch this, I am coupling this sense line with ground. And I'm referenced to ground, so it can tell that, hey, that is a good ground point. Or is it just noise in the air? There's stuff, these fluorescent lights create noise. There can be some noise on that line, and it knows, hey, that's not a good ground reference. I know what ground is because I'm getting a reference here. So the closer I get this, which we tell you in the MNI, hey, get this down to the bottom of the cabinet, don't put it up high. The closer to the ground we get it, the better ground reference it gets, because that's where I'm standing on ground.
But it doesn't mean the faucet won't operate. You're doing everything to give it the greatest, the least amount of or the greatest amount of sensitivity. You really want to give it an environment best suited to operate in.
And we're really I'm going to try to explain that. I know that there's a lot of, I don't know what that means. I'm going to show you on the screen in a minute, and we'll talk about this window that we're giving you of performance and how this affects that in the placement. So we got a ground reference. I'm standing on ground, so I am a path to ground. I am conductive. I touch the faucet, it's now coupling through me, and I'm giving it a direct link to ground. It's conductive. This is metal, this is chrome, chrome's conductive. Out of the solenoid, there is, and this is a widespread solenoid, so you're going to see two wires, but on the integrated, there's only one coming out of there. I'm giving it a sense wire. This is the touch component of the faucet. If I hook this up to the battery, this now becomes the touch point. So if I just touch this hook, this is your touch point. This is the sense wire, and it's conductive. It's a copper wire. This shank is conductive. This shank is directly connected to this metallic conductive hub, and this handle is directly connected to this conductive hub. So therefore, that sense wire is now basically extended into these areas. So as I touch this, it's pretty much the same as me touching this hook. And so by me doing that, I'm touching that sense wire. I'm showing it, hey, there's a ground reference touching this point. It's a good touch, turn on. So that's kind of how the capacitance works. I'm not going to try to explain why it's different here and here. Let's install one.
Yep.
Let's get it flowing water. I'm going to hook up some magic.
Who wants to
and
install?
We'll see what it looks like on the screen.
Because if you don't volunteer, we're gonna pick something. And you know what? I'm gonna make life so easy for you. I'm not even gonna make you do what you normally have to do, crawl in from the front. We're gonna turn it around, and you can actually install this thing whole, from the back. So
This is the winner gift.
So, You never get this opportunity, so,
What's the price for installing?
2 days stay at Tim's house.
A 4-in-1 screwdriver.
That would be the last price, sorry. All right, look, here's everything out of the box and a set of instructions, and, yeah. So everything that's on the table, I think the point we don't wanna make, when I've been out and seen bad installs or problem installs related to something, I've said, show me the box this came out of, and I always go find the 2 or 3 parts that are still in the box that should have been installed, you know, from the get-go. So, really, this isn't, I'm gonna let you. This ain't rocket science, but you know, the hole's already here, all your parts are over here, and really, you know, we're gonna sit here and walk through it with you. Because I think mainly we just wanna say how important each part is that as you install it and as it goes in. So of course, you know, to start with you know, the faucet comes in a box pretty much already like this, so the majority of what you're putting in is already here. The one recommendation that we do make is, as you go through the instructions, and, you know,
Does he need an assistant, Mike, to read for him?
well, that's kind of what, the whole point is, you know, these instructions are now, you guys have, if you all have iPhones and iPads, these quick start guides are all in pictures now, so they're pretty much, the language doesn't even matter that much, you know, if you can follow, you know, along in the pictures, but, you know, the important thing is just checking all your parts, the pictures are there, what needs to go on. And the recommendation, this piece I have in my hand right now, once you do, if you were coming at that from the front side and crawling to the sink, you want the least amount of things you gotta do while you're under there. So you wanna-
Blind, one-handed, hard things,
Yeah,
balance
yeah.
on your finger over here.
You want to get as much of this pre-done as possible before you go in. So this is one part we recommend, and you'll see how it couples with the solenoid in a minute. This is one part that we ask that you go ahead and install. You know, you'll see these are all O-ring, triple O-ring, double or triple O-ring connections under here. So we just slide this on and snap it in place. This is what the solenoid will hook up to, but it's still skinny enough to where it'll allow it to go through the hole there. So this is a hard part to put in once you're up underneath there, especially if you've got all this stuff going on. You got a deep bowl sink, so that's a good one to put on there because at this point then, and you'll see when you do it, we can just slide that solenoid right up on top and get it in there. So this is ready to go to be just threaded through the hole, and
And Mike, I want to point out one thing, our instructions are always divided for Touch product into under counter mount and above counter mount. Okay, there are different components that you may or may not use for those different applications. That's the first thing I always recommend is, so this sink is an under counter mount, that's the instructions we want to follow.
so it's going to be working a little bit backwards. You want to orient the sensor towards the front. You're doing
You
fine.
know, it was brought up.
To I think somebody's point over here about all of the stuff that's going on under here. Those long
Today.
supply lines will start interfering with stuff under there. So you might just have to guide them a little bit as you go in. So he's got it dropped in place, pretty much ready to go. What's the next thing you would do at this point?
In the solenoid or something? or-
Yeah, that could be.
Well, let's tie the faucet down. So
So at the point, we had to make a decision whether we're gonna do a single hole, or we have the option to add an expression. So we're not adding a discussion here, so basically, we're putting the mounting bracket on. So that's the,
Guys, we
Yeah,
are
do you
using-
wanna-
We are using the.
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and you're welcome to look at. You guys can help walking through the.
You know, nice thing about the faucets nowadays is there's only really, to put this faucet in, you need one tool. And that's a crescent wrench to attach the stops. We're giving you these nice tools. I mean, how many times have you guys been on your backs trying to get a channel lock up there and you got an 1/8 inch turn, you're busting your
This is
knuckles.
the best tool you'll ever have right here. Nice little.
We use it for other things too.
Yep, I would think so. I would think so.
And so we're trying to be able to provide that stuff in all of our faucets now.
You want
even
to
our-
talk to him at this point? I'm sorry about before he puts that piece on there. How critical that piece is to the.
Yeah, so, you know, I can talk about, there's a couple different elements that's important with the faucets, and I'll describe them a little bit more in depth whenever we start seeing it, but there's two terms, insulation and isolation. two totally different things. Insulation, we're preventing contact between two conductive elements. So if I put a piece of paper in between these two conductive elements, I'm insulating. Wires have insulation around them, preventing contact. Isolation is space. How much space do I provide between conductive objects? So I'm insulating them, and then if I isolate them, I'm providing so much isolation. Further I get, the more isolated they are. We know that we need an inch. We need an inch worth of isolation between the conductive parts of our faucet and the conductive elements around it. So picture this being a metal sink, drop-in with holes in it. I'm going to mount right on it. This is conductive. This base is non-conductive. That's an inch. This bracket that he's putting on, it's being put on with a metal nut. So that metal nut is being screwed right onto this shank. That shank's conductive. This bracket's conductive. So basically, that faucet now is this point, and I can touch that. It's touch sensitive. Well, I've got, if I'm going to the bottom side of a metal sink, here's my insulation. I'm not doing anything with metal, but I don't have an inch worth of isolation. So if I'm going to the bottom of the metal sink, I need to add this. There's my isolation. Or if I don't have enough room for that big one, we actually used them on this middle one, but you can see those there's actually two real thick ones stacked on each other. It's basically something like this. A lot of people just take that and modify it. But we also have available, here's just a round one. You don't have to cut it. Some of the faucets come with them.
Bless you.
That bottle would.
So you can add just the one. In certain situations like this situation, we would actually recommend, since it is a, and I'm going to show you a picture, since it is a undermount sink, it's being mounted on granite, right? So I think the isolation's there because there's no conductive element on top or bottom. But where's this sink go underneath the granite? How far does it go? We don't really know what's going on under there. And in some cases, you can see that the sink actually has a flange on it. And especially one that's offset like this, we know that flange gets real thick there in the middle and it just will go meet the other side. It's like two stamp pieces and then there's a big outer flange. And we heard from a plumber yesterday, you know, it's being very, very challenging for us with these undermount sinks because the homeowner wants this hole as close to the ledge as possible. So they're seeing these things come all the way up as close to that sink as possible. And so that's where this becomes real critical. Above the deck, it looks like you can say, you know what, there's no cause for concern there. We're pretty far away from that metallic sink. Hopefully we get this to brighten up a little bit. But as you can see on this next picture, you're looking underneath, you see there's that flange and it's diving all the way back to the bottom side of that shank. Now, we gave you guys this troubleshooting guide, the ability, if you guys want to jump up, you can grab one of those and take a look at it. I recommend you get out your seat, stretch your legs. But on page 5, there's another picture of a situation like this, and you can see that flange actually extends into the mounting hole.
It's on page 5.
So this one, it looks like it might stop just short of that mounting hole, but here's an example where it's actually going into that mounting hole. So in those types of situations, it's hard to tell what's going on underneath, so we say, hey, let's make sure we prevent contact. This conductive shank of the faucet is